Welcome to the next section. During this section, we're going to talk about how to streamline your efforts and become more efficient as you're working with large sets of data within Excel. We've talked about all sorts of tools that we have inside of Excel as we work with lists, things like sorting, filtering, pivot tables, calculations, and so on. Now, I want to introduce you to some features that are going to make your life easier, even easier, as you work with these other tools that we've already discussed. So the first one, this is called freeze panes. Now we've actually seen this, but very indirectly. It just kind of happened as a result of another feature. And I didn't really talk about it. But now I want to show off this freeze panes feature and how it's going to help you maintain larger lists. So take a look. Open in front of you, I've got our example file, Excel 102 exercises, and I'm currently on the employee records worksheet. Now we've got our list here. It's got some column headers up at the top. We talked about how important those column headers are because they help you and your coworkers access this list, right? They identify what goes into the list. But here's the problem. The column headers show up at the top of the list, which means if I scroll down to get to the bottom of the list or to get to a specific record, I lose those column headers. They go right off the top of the screen. Oops. Now, what do? Well, I'm down here entering a record, right? And I get to column D and it's like, wait a minute. What column is that? What should I be putting in here? Now I got to scroll back to the top. Oh, it's department. I got to scroll back down. Start entering my data. I get to here and it's like, oh, what's these numbers? I got to scroll back to the top. Oh, it's phone extension, right? A lot of this back and forth, right? Trying to determine what should I be putting in these columns. Well, to fix this problem, we're going to freeze the column headers in place. That way, as you scroll up and down, they stay put. Take a look. This is super easy. So all I'm going to do is click into column A, row 2. So I'm inside of cell A2. And the reason why I click there is now when I go to freeze the panes, it'll freeze everything up above the current cell I have selected. So I'm in A2 and my headers are right above it. I'm now going to go up to my View tab, top of my screen, View. Inside of View, I have a section called Window. And inside of Window, I'm going to go to Freeze Panes. And I'm going to freeze the panes. So now, if I scroll up and down, those headers stay put. Look at that. Row 1 is always there, frozen in spot. Very nice, right? I don't have to put my finger on the screen anymore and scroll up and down and try to remember what column I'm in. They're always there no matter how much I scroll up and down. Freeze the panes. I've now freezed or frozen the first row, the headers at the top of my screen. And really simple. Click into A2, go up to View, Freeze Panes, freeze the panes. If you decide you're tired of it, you don't need it anymore, you can always reverse it. You can unfreeze the panes as well. Okay? So try this out. Jump into the exercise file, go to Employee Records, and freeze the headers. So much earlier inside this course, we talked about a feature called subtotals. We were able to create a subtotal based on some column of data, such as maybe what you're looking at in front of you, get a subtotal on total expense based on a group within the data set. So I could do something like, hey, I want to get a subtotal for total expense based on division. So I want to get a subtotal for East, total expense, get a subtotal for North, total expense, and so on. This was a part of the subtotal tool. Now, we saw just really briefly that there was an extra feature that came with the subtotal tool, and it was called Group and Outline. It allowed you to collapse or expand your subtotals. Now, what I want to show you here is how you can create your own group and outlines, how you can group rows or columns inside of larger worksheets, such as what you're looking at here. So once again, I'm back inside of the Excel 102 exercise files folder, and I'm inside of the list functions worksheet. Now, what I'd like to do here is we've got some months, January, February, and March, months worth of data here for these different divisions and different categories. Well, you know what? I don't need to see all of these months all of the time. I want to be able to hide, just temporarily, hide some of these columns when I don't need to see them. Now, you could always do this. I want to hide January. So I can select column C, I could right click, and I can choose hide. Oh, when I need to get it back, I can then unhide it. And I can hide February, and I can unhide it, and I can hide March and unhide it, and so on. But it's a very manual process. It's not very accessible. What I'm going to show you here is going to create a little interface that you can expand and collapse at any point. Watch this. So let's say I want to hide January temporarily. So I'm going to select column C, just give that a click. I'll go up to my data tab, top of the screen. On the far right, you got a section called outline. And in there I got group. I'm going to go to group, and I'm going to go ahead and group it. So I've now created this group. This is little horizontal line at the top with this little button on the far right. If I give that a click, it'll group up January, essentially hiding the January column. If I hit the plus sign, it'll expand it back out. Now, you know what? Let's keep this going. Right now I'm just doing January, but let's say, you know what? I don't want to see January or February. Well, I'll highlight C and D. I'll go right back to data, right back to group, and I'm going to group it. So now I've got two of them. If I collapse the first one, I hide January. I open that back up. Now January's back. If I click on the second one, I now hide January and February. Look at that. Let's try it a third time. I'm going to grab C, D, and E. So January, February, March. Right back to data, right back to group, and I now got a third one. I can collapse individual January, get January, February, or January, February, and March are now hidden, just through a simple little interface called group and outline. And again, you can always hide and unhide, but that's a very manual process. Now it's just an interface that users can go to and click on buttons. Try this out. Open up the exercise file, group the months, or maybe take it a step further. Try grouping the different divisions. Highlight the rows, like I'm going to get all the East right here, 2 through 15. Get those highlighted. Go right back to data, back to group, and I'll group. So I've now created a group for East. And if I click on the number 1 up here, I'll collapse East. Now I just got North out there. Hit it again, and there's East. So an interactive show and hide feature called group and outline. So one of the biggest challenges that I see people run into is printing documents within Excel. Trying to get stuff to fit on a single page, trying to get it to break appropriately where it should as we go from page for page, and various other things that really deal with printing, just getting it ready and presentable. Well, I'm going to show you a few features here that are hopefully going to help you manage larger sets of data as you go to print it. Let's take a look. Open in front of you, I've got the example file, Excel 102 exercises, and I'm on the sales data worksheet down below. Now I'm going to make a couple of quick little adjustments here before I go to print this, just things that I'm noticing right away. Like I can see that frozen yogurt is kind of cut off and salesperson is cut off, so I'm going to increase my column widths here. Let's just make C a little bit wider there, we'll make D a little bit wider. Alright, so I know that that's an issue right there. I'm just trying to make that stuff fit within the columns before I print it. Something small, but just increase the column widths. Alright, now let's take a look at what this document looks like if I were to print it right now. Let's go to File, and I'm going to go down to Print. Alright, here's my document. So it doesn't look like much, but you know what? Ooh, I've got 18 pages worth of content here. So on the very first page, I've got my header, I've got my column headers, but it looks like I'm cutting off a couple of the columns, right? I think that we also had order number that was out there as well and one other, okay? So something's breaking across the page. Now let's go ahead and go to page 2. Page 1 of 18, I'll go to page 2, just hit the arrow. Here's my page 2. Now what am I looking at? You know, if I go back to page 1, I've got the top portion, the top, 30 records or so there. But remember, I'm missing a couple of columns off to the right to complete these records. When I go to page 2, I would expect to see those records or the continuation of these records. But instead, I'm seeing records that are down below the previous 30 records. And on top of this, I don't see the headers at the top. I don't see year and month and product and so on up there. No headers. They're missing. Okay? So I need to make a couple of adjustments here. I need to make sure that the headers stay put, they're always there, and when I go to page 2, I should see the continuation of page 1 records before I get into a whole new set of records. Okay? And this is all being caused because we got a large set of data that's spanning multiple pages in height and multiple pages in width. So let's fix this. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to Excel, hit the back arrow here at the top left corner. All right, so first I'm going to get my column headers here to repeat. Okay, every page the column headers should show up. So to fix this, I'm going to go up to the Page Layout tab, top of my screen. In Page Layout, you got a section called Page Setup. And in there, you have an option called Print Titles. I'll give that a click. This opens up your Page Setup window. I'm going to go to the Sheet tab, which is where I'm already at. And underneath the Sheet tab, I've got Print Titles, where I can do rows to repeat at top and columns to repeat at left. Well, I don't need columns to repeat, but I do want to repeat the rows. So I'm going to click into the rows section, and I'm going to go select row number 4. That's it. Let's see what this looks like. So I'm going to go back down to Print Preview. Here's my Print Preview. There's page 1. There's my headers along the top. I'll go to page 2, and I still have the headers. Page 3, headers. Page 4, headers, and so on. Headers on every page. Okay, but you know what? I'm still having an issue here. These records are incomplete. I should still have a couple of columns off to the right. And when I go to the next page, this is when I should see them. But you know what? It's not till I get to page 10 that I see the continuation of page 1 records. That doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, for you, you're going to print this out and then have to reshuffle the pages, and then your page numbers will be off inside your footer. Ooh, that doesn't make a lot of sense. So now I need to change this. I need to change the order that I'm printing this document within. Take a look. Let me show you what's happening here. I'm going to hit the back arrow. Actually, first I'll go back to page 1. So I'm going to hit the back arrow. And I'm going to change my view for a moment to show you what's actually happening here. I'm going to go up to my View tab, and I'm going to change this to Page Break Preview. So if you can see it there, this first set of data right here is considered page 1. See it in kind of light gray there in the background, page 1. If I scroll down, there's the next page, there's page 2. There's page 3, and so on. But if I scroll back up, page 1 content bleeds into a page over here. And it's really small, but over here it says page 10. That's not right. Down here, this is page 11. Well, you know what? The way that we're printing this is we're going from top, down, and then back up and down. Kind of a zigzag, like a backwards N. Top, down, and then back to the top diagonally, and then down. What I want it to do is go from here to here. So this should be page 1. This should be page 2. This should be page 3. This should be page 4, and so on. So this is a super simple fix. Take a look. I'm going to go back to my Page Layout tab, and I'm going to go back into that Print Titles area. And the reason why I'm clicking on Print Titles is this will open up the Page Setup window. On the Sheet tab, down at the bottom, you got Page Order. So right now it's going down, then over. So down, page 1, page 2, and then up to page 3 to page 4. I need it to go over and then down. So I'm going to change it to over then down. So now we're doing this kind of Z motion, right? Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. I hit OK. I'm going to go back to File and back to Print. All right, so there's my first page. There's what I'm expecting. I'll go to page 2, and there's the continuation. Go to page 3. I got a new set of records. Page 4 is a continuation of page 3 records. So a couple simple fixes here for larger sets of data. You can repeat the column headers. Get those headers to repeat on every page. That way you have them there and people can use them to identify the data. Also, think about your page order. If your page breaks aren't happening in the correct order, hop back into the page setup window and change the order your pages are being printed in. 2 simple fixes to manage larger documents within Excel. Larger Excel documents don't just contain data on single worksheets, but perhaps can contain data across multiple worksheets. Open in front of you, I've got the example file that comes with this course. It's called Excel 102 Exercises. And I'm currently looking at the summary worksheet. You can see down below. This summary worksheet has got a simple little table, 2 columns, a town and a circulation. Circulation currently being empty. The data that I want to fill into the circulation column comes from the 3 sheets to the left. 2013 contains a very similar table, towns, circulation numbers, same with 2014, and same with 2015. All the same towns, but different circulations for different years. So now what I want to do here with all of this data is summarize it all into one spot right here on the circulation, or excuse me, on the summary tab. Okay? Now we're going to actually see this done with 2 methods. The first one, we're going to utilize a technique here called 3D formulas. Essentially, we're going to create a formula that goes to other worksheets. Typically, when you think of summing up a group of numbers, you just think of creating a formula on one worksheet and referencing cells on that same worksheet. Well, here, we're going to perform a mathematical operation, just do some addition, but we're going to reference cells in different worksheets. This is a 3D reference or a 3D formula. Take a look. So I'm currently on the summary sheet. I'm going to go up to cell B4. This is where I want to create the calculation. I want to sum up the circulation numbers for the town of Beverly. So I'll go to B4. I'm going to create a formula. What do you start formulas with? I'm going to type in an equals, and then I'm going to click on 2013. And if I look up at the top in my formula bar, I can now see equals 2013, and it's super excited. It's got an exclamation mark. Ding! I'm now referencing within my formula the sheet called 2013. Now, what do I want to get from this sheet? Ooh, well, I want to get the circulation for Beverly. So I'll go to B4. There it is. I'm referencing worksheet 2013, cell B4. Now what do I want to do? What type of math am I performing here? Well, I want to do some addition. So I'm going to hit the plus sign. Now I need to get the next bit of data. So I need to go to 2014. Look at my formula bar. I'm now referencing sheet 2014, and I'll get cell B4, which is the circulation for Beverly. And I need to do this one more time. Hit my plus sign. I'm going to go to 2015, grab Beverly's circulation, got my complete formula now. 2013, 14, and 15, all cells B4. I'm done. I'm going to hit my enter key. I'm back on the summary sheet, and I've got my grand total for all 3 years for the town of Beverly. What is that? 3,245,998. A simple calculation, just branching across multiple worksheets. Try this out. Create a formula on the summary sheet. Go up to cell B4, type in the equal sign, and then it's just click. Click on 2013, grab the proper cell. Hit your plus sign because you're doing some addition. Go to 2014, grab the proper cell, and continue the process. Try getting it for each of the towns here. Practice it a little bit. Just get it comfortable building formulas that span across multiple worksheets. So now that we've seen how to create formulas that will span across multiple worksheets, and by the way, you can also do the same thing across multiple workbooks, let's take a look at a more automated approach, get Excel to do some of the work for us. Same scenario here. Got the exercise file open, I'm looking at the summary sheet. I deleted out the circulations that I created earlier. Now I want to perform the same thing, but utilizing a built-in tool inside of Excel called Consolidate. With a little bit of input from us, essentially where's the data at, Excel will fill in the data for us. Now, I need to do a little bit of housekeeping here first. On the summary sheet, I've got the towns. And with the Consolidate feature, I really don't need the town listings here. So I'm just going to grab cells A4 to A8, and I'm going to hit my delete key on my keyboard. Let's get rid of them. The reason why I'm deleting those is the Consolidate feature is not only going to sum up all the circulations for me, but it's also going to identify the proper town for me. Watch this. So I'm on the summary sheet. I deleted out the towns. I'm going to click inside of cell A4. I'm going to go up to my Data tab, top of my screen. Towards the far right, we got a section called Data Tools, and I'm going to go to Consolidate. I'll give that a click. This opens up my Consolidate window where, just with a little bit of input, Excel is going to consolidate the 2013, 14, and 15 sheets all into the summary sheet for me. So the first step wants to know, hey, well, what type of consolidation do you want to perform here? And I've got a number of different functions. Well, for me, I'm just going to do a standard sum. Now it needs the references. It needs to know where the data is at that you want to sum up on the summary sheet. Well, let's move this window. I'm going to click into the reference box. I'll go down to 2013, and I'm going to select cells A4 down to B8. Let's grab that as my first reference. I'm going to go back in and hit add. I've added my 2013 reference. Now I need to do this 2 more times. So I'll go down to 2014, make sure the same range is highlighted, hit the add button. Now I've grabbed 2 of them. Let's do it one more time, 2015. Make sure I grab the same range again and add it. All right, so I've got my 3 references, the 3 separate sheets. Now we've got some additional options here. 3 little check marks. First, use labels in. Now imagine this. You've got the 3 different years worth of circulations with the towns and the circulation numbers. Well, what if throughout the years you're adding and removing towns? Some towns have closed down, some towns have opened up, new circulation numbers are introduced. Well, because we're not consistent anymore, Excel needs a way to identify the towns as it moves from sheet to sheet so it can consolidate Beverly with Beverly and doesn't accidentally do it Beverly and Cherrydale together. That's where the labels come into play. Now our references that we just established have 2 columns. The first column is the town, or essentially the label for the circulation numbers. So I'm going to tell it to use the left column from my references as the label. So I'll turn that on. The other option here, create links to source data. Now I'm not going to turn mine on, I'll leave it up to you. But if you check that, it creates a link from your summary sheet to your previous 3 sheets. This way, if 2013, 14, or 15 update their numbers, the summary sheet will automatically update. So again, I'll leave it up to you if you want that to be linked or not. But make sure you use left column as the labels so that this consolidate feature knows to match up Beverly with Beverly and Cherrydale with Cherrydale and so on. So now all I need to do, got my 3 references using left column, I'm going to hit OK. And I've now consolidated that data from the 3 other sheets. Got the 3,245,998, all from the 2013 through 15 years of Beverly and so on. All done for you. With just a little bit of input from us, Excel did the consolidation for us. So try this out. Wipe out the previous exercise, get rid of those circulation numbers that you did manually, and use the consolidate feature. Remember, you got to delete the towns out. You don't need those on the summary sheet. Then hop up to cell A4, go to data to consolidate, grab your references, use the left column as your label, and you're done. It's a beautiful thing, saving you tons of time that you would normally have to do manually. It automates it for you.